What is going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital, coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is March 2nd, 2021. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to be talking about the price action in the indices. We'll go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors. We'll talk about some of my trades for the day, and we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, as always, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, let's jump right into it. And let's look at this price action for today. So we have our ES futures here, and I will say that this environment for trend traders is definitely getting a bit more challenging. We're seeing a lot more chop on the tape, because if you look in the grand scheme of things, over the past month or so, we've really just gone nowhere on this S&P 500, but we've had a lot of really big extended range candles. So if you look, a lot of candles with wicks on them. We've got this green extended range candle here, this huge red one immediately after. So there's really just a lot of back and forth. But as we currently sit right here, you can see we are trading within the monthly value area. You can see that after today's close, we closed below the 20-day simple moving average. We're pretty much closed right at that 5-day exponential moving average. This is actually on the after hours, the evening futures that just opened up. We are currently up 0.08%. But for the indices, today we finished, let's take a look at our SPY. We closed down 0.78 for the S&P 500, down 0.78%. We closed down 1.92% for the IWM small caps, and we closed down 1.6% for the NASDAQ QQQ. And there's a lot to go over here. So if you take a look, this is our daily chart. And I have marked off in teal my line in the sand level of this 3880 on the S&P 500. And you can see that as we closed today, we couldn't hold that level, and we actually closed under it. So in this kind of environment, we just can't hold these highs currently. So you'll see, like, earlier in February, we hit a high of 39.59, and we've really sold off ever since. We're definitely getting these bounces here, but these bounce highs are not really being sustained. And if you look, you can see here we made a high of 39.59 over here. Then we made a high of, what is this, 39, about 34 over here. Now you can see this recent high is 39.11. So over this intermediate term time frame here, we're either going sideways at best, or we're in a slight downtrend if you really look at it. So for me in my process, we definitely just have to trade accordingly. Like when the market is trending really nicely, like over here, there's a really good opportunity to make lots of money. When the market's sort of chopping around, it definitely makes sense to be a bit more tactical and just try to be a little bit more patient with the trading. If we look at this hourly chart here, you can see that, yeah, we held this teal line in the sand pretty much up until about lunchtime. So you can see around noon, we had a really big red candle here, and we weren't able to recover from it. If we look at the small caps, let's take a look at those. You can see the small caps took a pretty big hit also. Those did not hold this point of control right here, and we closed below the 20-day and the 5-day exponential moving average. So at this point, can't really rule out us testing this value area low again. But I would say the market is sort of directionless here. So really in terms of like trading edge, and really like trend analysis, I would say this is, a really ambiguous point in the markets where if you look at this, we're really just chopping sideways. So yeah, the trend is more so just sideways to flat. Now if we look at the Qs The Qs I would definitely say look the worst out of these headline indices. So you can see we got our pretty strong bounce yesterday, nice extended range candle, and those highs were immediately rejected right off the open today. And for the Qs, we actually closed below this value area low. So the Qs are definitely in a defined downtrend in the intermediate term. If we pull up our heat map here, you can see this will probably give everyone a better feel. So we'll pull this up. Yeah, and you can see it's been, pretty relentless sell-off for a lot of these technology companies. So if we look at the FANG stocks, we have Apple down pretty big, Microsoft as well, Amazon, Tesla, another big down day. And you can see Google is definitely acting pretty well here, but even that one finished down, 0.25%. The areas that are outperforming today, our big outperformer for the day was the materials. And then a lot of these reopening stocks are still doing pretty well also. So let's take a look at like Tesla, for instance. And what I'm trying to gather and ascertain is this really like the start of a downtrend, or is this more so just, a rotation that's occurring? Because if you look at something like Tesla, this is clearly now in a downtrend right here. And we can't really hold. Like you see, we had a nice bounce here, but we couldn't really hold it. Same thing, like Zoom announced really good earnings today. And Zoom, look at what happened on those earnings, like, down 9%. So a lot of these tech stocks, there's no question about it. The trend here is down. And, that might be causing a lot of the pressure on the indices because the indices are very tech heavy. But if we look at some of these other areas, like if you look at the materials sector, this looks a lot more healthy. Same thing if we look at some of these travel names like Expedia, doesn't look too bad. TripAdvisor had a really good day. So yeah, it's tough to tell if this is like, the market's topping or whatever, or it might just really be we're entering, at least in the short term, just a new regime where there's some new leaders that are taking us higher. So definitely just want to be open to really any scenario here. And then if we take a look, so let's dive into our sectors and style factors here, and you'll get a better feel for what we're talking about as well. So if we look at our sectors for the day, we had most of these top performing sectors down for the day. We had the energy stocks taking a little bit of a break, the regional banks as well. This YOLO cannabis ETF finished basically flat for the day, slightly positive. But if you look, a lot of these areas that really bounced, like the solar stocks, completely gave back their bounce. These ARK funds giving back the bounce as well. So overall, there's really no progress being made in the market. Yeah, and you can see XLB, the materials, doing pretty well today. And then the European financials also. But if we look, for instance, at this TAN ETF, gave back, a big part of what it recovered in this bounce here. So I think where people can get really messed up is as we transition from a market that was really trending higher to a market that's trending more so sideways to even slightly down, what can happen to a lot of people, and I got caught with this as well, is you buy these stocks as they rip a little bit higher, but because we're not really in an uptrending market anymore, you get hurt as they revert to the mean and move lower. So definitely it's sort of like a mindset behavioral shift that you have to make as the market changes its trend. Same thing for the Qs as well, pretty much just giving it all back. Now if we take a look at our style factors here, you can see we had the high div, low vol stocks were the only group that were positive. You can see we had plus 0.2% day for those. Then you can see the cyclicals down 1.33%. We have the momentum stocks down 1.81%. Growth down as well. So yeah, really just giving back a lot of what we saw yesterday. Now let's take a look at some of my trades for today. Today I definitely added some exposure in certain areas. But I also added some more defensive trades as well. Um, yeah, so we have here. So I took a target in my VUZI common shares. I paid $19.41 for those. I was able to sell out a good portion for $25.78. VUZI had a really nice move today. So if you look, yeah, this one really sort of had like a nice blow off move. And I was able to take, some of my exposure off up here, in the $25 range before it completely reversed. So that's definitely not a good candle when you have a stock that breaks out, and the breakout is just completely sold. And luckily I purchased this one, down here before it got super, super extended. But that's definitely the risk. I was talking to some members today about, certain stocks that get very extended and sort of like parabolic. And for instance, VUZI, I would definitely classify this one as one that has also gone parabolic. So definitely you just have to treat these, you have to be careful with these parabolic names. It's good if you can get them on a pullback. But when you buy them, on the highs, you definitely just have to be cognizant of like, okay, if this trend changes and we get a pullback to the 20-day moving average, am I comfortable with sitting through the stock for that pullback? So VUZI, it was a nice trade for today. So I'm down to half of my original position. If tomorrow's weak, I'll probably just cut off that second half. I got long some skills common shares. And with this one, I definitely got caught here. So you can see with skills, I bought in as this one like, oh, okay, it's breaking above the 20-day simple moving average. Like, this is awesome. This one was another one that really just turned around today. So this one's going to be on a tight leash for me. I like this company over the long term. But if these growth names are really going to be out of favor, I just want to make sure I set my stop, have my level to get out here. I'll probably set my stop somewhere around like $30, $31, and just make sure to respect it. That's all. And if we take a look, I added a starter position in Dragonfly. This one is a name that I traded quite a bit in 2020. This has been a really good name for me. And it's one that I like to come back to. There's been a lot of, the thing about Dragonflies, there's a lot of news about it. DFLYF. Yeah, there's a lot of news that keeps coming out about this name. So there were more headlines today, like the CEO is going to be speaking on March 4th, and the company actually got a contract for a bunch of schools where I think it's like 3,000 of their drones are going to be used. So this one, I like this pattern here. It's been consolidating for quite some time, so I added some exposure here and gave myself some room to add if this one keeps moving higher. And then did some options trading as well today. This one, yeah, if you take a look, I actually got long a put diagonal in TLT. And this one should be pretty interesting. So if we take a look here, TLT, TLT has had a nice bounce here, but you can see it can't really get back into this monthly value area. So I put on a put diagonal. I bought the 140 strike put expiring in April, and I sold the 138 strike put expiring in March. So really what this trade allows me to do is, okay, if TLT doesn't really do all that much, I won't get hurt in this trade, and I'll make a couple bucks because that March option is decaying pretty quickly. And then if TLT makes a nice move down for the rest of March, down to 138, that would be like my profit target right there. So yeah, I like this structure because I think if these yields continue to go higher, some of these growth names will really be under pressure. And I have exposure to some of those growth names. I've made sure to really orient myself in a good mix of growth and reopening names. But I figure, hey, this could come in handy as a hedge. I also took some SPY puts into the close, really just because we did not hold my line in the sand level at 38.80 for the S&P 500. So yeah, I would love to lose money on this hedge. That'd be awesome because then that means, the market hasn't rolled over. But like even this, we're seeing some strength in the after hours market. We're up 0.19%, you know, it doesn't really mean all that much if we can't clear levels. Like if we have some strength in the overnight market, you know, we rally up to 38.80, but then we get rejected there again, you know, that doesn't do us any good. So I would love to, you know, if the market rallies, you know, I'll take that hedge off at some point. Definitely felt comfortable adding it. And then LVS, Las Vegas Sands. This is another name. It's in a very similar pattern to Carnival, which I also have on. Carnival, if you take a look, very similar pattern. I really like these because if you look at some of these stocks, like, I think it's important to just look at these stocks as tickers. That's really all they are. Because if you get attached to the names, you can get in big trouble. And a lot of the you know, growth names that have been in really strong trends, like Roku, you know, just completely rolling over. Same thing like CrowdStrike, rolling over. This one only down 0.58%. That's not bad at all. Yeah, a lot of these names are really rolling over. But if you look, names like Carnival are doing very well. So this, I like this price action right here. You can see we're sort of forming like an ascending triangle where we're making higher lows and then equivalent or higher highs. So that's definitely, I love that price action where it's tightening. LVS, I added some 65 strike calls here. I think this is forming a very similar pattern. I think it'll end up resolving higher. Because even if you look here, this one has a really nice volume signature where you can see on all these green days, you know, volume accelerating. And then for this pullback here, which is really just like a sideways consolidation, that sideways consolidation is happening on lower volume and on decelerating volume. So yeah, I really like that one. And let's take a look at some of this options order flow. I'm also going to pull up, you know, there's some interesting news that came out about one of my holdings, Digital Turbine. So you can see Digital Turbine. This is definitely one of my favorite names here. They're making another acquisition of this company, Triapati. I've never heard of them, for $22.5 million in cash. Apps is a digital advertising company, and they essentially have a monopoly within these Android phones. And I like what they're doing, where they're just acquiring a lot of different puzzle pieces, and you know, they're adding them to their core business. It looks like they're really doubling down on what they're doing. So that's pretty interesting. I kind of want to see how this one's doing in the after hours, if it's doing anything. Okay, so it looks like in the after hours, not really doing all that much. You can see apps, you know, hit a high of $102, but that level was rejected. You know, these growth stocks were kind of weak, and I think they kind of brought this one down with it as well. But yeah, app's doing very well. Yeah, let's take a quick look at this options order flow. Nice. So we have an order for LVS that came in at 334. And you can see some June 18th calls. There was apparently some data that came out about Macau in China, you know, saying that their, you know, the recovery was going well. So a lot of these Macau stocks are, you know, having a nice run here. Then you can see earlier in the day we had some put options going up. We had some DraftKings puts, emerging markets puts, SPY hedges. Looks like everyone's getting bearish on Apple now. But then we had calls coming in later in the day. So you can see we have some Q's calls, Micron. Let's see what Micron's looking like. Micron is one of the better looking semis. Yeah, Micron closed on the lows. So yeah, these semi names, yeah, they're in a really nice trend, but yeah, even they got hit too. So yeah, Micron, really nice trend. With these semi names, I think the most popular names among traders are AMD, which I've traded a bunch in the past, and Nvidia. And both of these stocks are going nowhere fast. So in terms of trading, you know, the semis, it's like, do you want to trade Nvidia and AMD, or do you want to trade some of these other ones? Like AMAT is in a really nice trend. It looks very similar to Micron. Taiwan Semi, this one's coming under some pressure actually. This one doesn't look as great. This company Maxer also looks really nice. So yeah, I just think there's some better names out there. So yeah, some activity going up for MU. Oh, nice. Then we had some call activity in JP Morgan into the close. So these are for January 2022. Let's see what JP Morgan did. Okay, and JP Morgan, a little bit of a correction here, and now it's just kind of moving sideways. So this actually looks pretty interesting to me to get into a trade. You know, right now I don't have much in the way of exposure to banks, except I do have this financials company, Silvergate Capital. I believe this is a regional bank. Yeah, bank holding company for Silvergate Bank. Yeah, so I do have some, but this one is, you know, a really fast mover. Talked about this in the videos in the past, but I do have my 160 by 180 by 200 butterfly that expires March 19th. So I think this butterfly is really still in play, and this name is doing exactly what I want it to do, because the butterfly, it's like, you know, like I said yesterday, you want it to hit your target. You don't want it to hit your target on day one. So if this thing can just consolidate, you know, in a perfect world, even a few more days, and then make a move higher, that would be awesome. Let's see what happens though. This is one where if we get a move higher, you know, I'll probably take a target in it. Futu, I also have a butterfly in. These Chinese internet names also really coming under pressure. So if we look at the KWEB ETF first. Yeah, had a bounce, and then the bounce was sold. So Futu is one where that's why sometimes I like to use these butterflies. It's not the same as using a call option where you go, oh man, it didn't move quickly, like I'm getting crushed. With the butterfly, you almost want there to be a consolidation and for the stock to really take its time to hit your target. So we'll see what happens with Futu as well. But that about does it for this market recap video. Hope you all had a great trading day, and I will see you all tomorrow.